by Hashem Yahushua. It's all praise to the Most High God. In the name of His only begotten Son, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. It's your brother. Touch upon you by Yahweh, coming back at you through the spirit and power of Yahweh by Hashem Yahushua. With a quick rebuke video on myself. This is a self-correction. I got pointed to some information by one of my higher ups that basically had to rebuke me on a couple of things about the lineage of Frederick Douglass. It's been heavily propagated within the Israelite community that Frederick Douglass is a tear, as the likes of Bob Marley, and to take it back to biblical times, Herod, right? He had a Levite mother and an Edomite father. The same thing with Bob Marley. He had a Benjamite mom and an Edomite father. But he looked, like Jake. He got color to him. He got melanin. Nappy hair, so on and so forth. Because we know that you inherit traits from both of your parents. So we always tell people that it's not about how you look, it's about who you go back to. But upon further examination that I never did on my own, we'll come to find out that Frederick Douglass didn't ever really know who his father was, never saw him, or didn't have enough information to proclaim that he was a so-called white man. He did think he was a white man, but when you go into the narrative, it'll show you why he thought the things that he thought, which isn't far-fetched by any stretch of the imagination. So I'm going to start this off with Proverbs 18 and 13. He that answereth a matter before he heareth it, it is folly and shame unto him. So for me or any other Israelite to go out on the street and tell people that, Frederick Douglass is a so-called tear, is a so-called Edomite, it's folly unto you. Because when we go into the source material, it'll show you that this can't be substantiated. Matter of fact, let me also get Sirach 11 and 7. Blame not before thou hast examined the truth, understand first, and then rebuke. So before I ever said this on the street, what I should have did was I should have looked into it myself instead of, just going off of rhetoric that I've heard spewed throughout the community for years upon years. Okay? So, without further ado, we're going to hit just a few scriptures, substantiating that you are what your father is. This is what we push. This is why we push it. It lines up biblically with the Bible. It's an ancient concept. Your lineage does not go through your mom. It goes through your father. So this is Numbers 1 and 18. And they assembled all the congregation together on the first day of the second month, and they declared their pedigrees after their families by the house of their fathers, according to the numbers of the names, from 20 years old and upward by their polls. Job 8 and 8. And for inquire, I pray thee, of the former age, and prepare thyself to the search of their fathers. Deuteronomy 32 and 7. Remember the days of old, consider the years of many generations. Ask thy father, and he will show thee thy elders, and they will teach thee. So when you want to know where you come from, where's your roots, you're supposed to go back to your forefathers, man. All right. When somebody gives a child a DNA test, they don't issue the test to their mom. They issue it to their father. All right. So it's not about looks. It's not about how you act. It's not about how you feel. It's about who you descend from patrilineally. All right. I skipped over Ezra 2 and 59 because I wanted to save it for last, because this fits Frederick Douglass to a T. It's the same thing that happened in the book of Ezra when these heathen mothers were raising Israelite children. And these are the children that got casted away because they were following heathen customs, and nobody could tell whether they was Israel or not for a specific reason. Let's find out what that reason was. And we're going to see how it really lines up with Frederick Douglass's case. Ezra 2 and 59. And these were they which went up from Telamah, Telharsa, Sherub, Adon, and Immer. But they could not show their father's house and their seed. So how do you find out What your seed is through your father, whether they were of Israel. This is how we determine who anybody from any nation is, right? Because your seed comes from your father. Your father plants the seed in your mother, and she brings you forth, right? But it couldn't be possible without that sperm from your father, man. All right. But yeah, the same thing basically is this is parallel with Frederick Douglass's situation. You know, he didn't know his father. He had no recollection of his father. Okay, so nobody can sit up and say that definitively he's a white boy. Okay, now let's just get into some sources, and then I'm actually going to get the actual book. Where the sources get the quote from, and then we're going to close out. All right. So this is on history.com. Um, Douglas was born Frederick Augustus Washington Bailey on the Home Hill Farm in Talbot Country, Maryland in February 1818. He was the son of Harriet Bailey, who he saw for the last time in 1824 at age 6. Right? Now, I'm going to say this. Some of these sources vary. It says that the last time he saw his mom was at 6. Some say 7. Some also say 10 years old. So in between 6 and 10, that was the last time he saw his mom. Douglas never knew the accurate identity of his father. I'm going to read that again. Douglas never knew the accurate identity of his father, although some evidence indicates that it was either the first owner Aaron Anthony, or the second owner, Thomas Allude, to whom he was bequeathed on Anthony's death. Right? So they have little indications saying that these two crackers could be his father, but there's no accurate identity of either one of them actually being his dad. All right, let's get to the next source. Timeline of Frederick Douglass and family, 1818, exact date unknown. Frederick Douglass was born as Frederick Augustus Washington Bailey, a slave at Home Hill Farm, Talbot County, Maryland. His mother, Harriet Bailey, was a field slave from whom he was separated during his infancy. Douglass only saw his mother 4 or 5 times thereafter, and for only a few hours each time. She had been sold to a man who lived 12 miles from where Douglass lived, and to see her son required that her day's work in the field. She walked the 12 miles, visit with him for a short time during the night, walk the 12 miles back to her home, and work a second day in the fields without rest. She died when Douglass was about 7. Douglass never knew for certain whom his father was. He did know that his father was white, and he believed he was his master, Aaron Anthony. So this is what he believed. This is what he believed. I'm going to actually get it's another source that actually goes into the reason for him believing that his father was white. But like it says, Douglass never knew for a certain whom his father was. So let me just do this right quick, right? Let's look up this word certain. Certain in etymology, right? Certain, adjective, right? Determined, fixed. From Old French certain, reliable, sure, assured, right? So if you say if it says that he's not certain, he's not sure. Okay, he's not sure of the identity of his father. All right. Douglass never knew for certain whom his father was. Okay. All right. Let's go to another source. Frederick Douglass was born in February 1817 on the eastern shore of Maryland. His exact date of birth remains unknown. His mother, from whom he was separated at an early age, was a slave named Harriet Bailey. She named her son Frederick Augustus Washington Bailey. He never knew or saw his father. Right? He never knew or saw his father, man. Okay? Let's see what else this says. As a slave, Douglass was not allowed to have much of a childhood. He was separated from his parents and he was forced to work hard and suffer cruel treatment while working on the property of Captain Aaron Anthony. In 1825, Anthony, who often hired his slaves out to others, decided to send Douglas to Baltimore, Maryland, to live with a man named Hugh Allud and his family. And then these two names, Aaron Anthony and Hugh Allud, when we go back to this source right here, it says this is who he thought, this was who the speculation was about, Thomas Allud and Aaron Anthony. But the thing about it is, he was already born by the time, like, this is like his first and second owners. You know what I'm saying? Or something like that. Let me read that again. Where we at? As a slave, Douglas was not allowed much of a childhood. He was separated from his parents. He also was forced to work and suffer cruel treatment while working on the property of Captain Aaron Anthony. So it already says he was separated from his parents, right? That's plural. Then it says in 1825, Anthony, who often hired his slaves out to others, decided to send Douglas to Baltimore, Maryland, where he lived with a man named Hugh Allud. So wait a minute. So Hugh Allud, and who is this right here? Okay, it's another cracker named Allud, who is Thomas. I don't know if Thomas and Hugh are the same people, but it can be found out. But anyway, the point is, he's not of a certain of a surety who his father is. All right. This is another source. Douglas begins his narrative with what he knows about his birth in Tuckahoe, Maryland, or precisely what he does not know, right? Precisely what he does not know, because a lot of information was kept from Frederick Douglass. Okay, I have no accurate knowledge of my age, so he doesn't know his age. He doesn't know his damn birthday, right? Douglas states, nor can he positively identify his father, right? So how in the hell are we gonna come, you know, I don't know how many years later, and say this man's father is a white man when he didn't even positively know himself? Okay, Douglas notes that it was whispered that my master was my father. So this is stuff that people were saying. Just because somebody says something, it doesn't mean it's true. You know, people say that we evolved from apes. Just because it's said, does that mean it's true? No. Okay, but the means of knowing was withheld from me, right? He recalls that he was separated from his mother before I knew her as my mother, and that he saw her only 4 or 5 times in my life. This separation of mothers from children and lack of knowledge about age and paternity, Douglas explains, was common among slaves. It is the wish of most masters to keep their slaves ignorant, thus ignorant. Okay? Let's go to another source. And matter of fact, I'm going to put all these sources within the comment section so y'all can just read this stuff for yourself. We got a couple of more to go and I'm gonna close out. Okay, Douglas knows only that his father is a white man. Though many people say that his master is his father, he explains that slaveholders often impregnate their female slaves. A law ensures that mixed race children become slaves like their mothers. Thus, slaveholders actually profit from his practice of rape, and it increases the number of slaves they own. Douglas explains that such mixed race slaves have a worse lot than other slaves, as a slaveholder's wife, insulted by their existence, ensures that they either suffer constantly or are sold off. Douglas considers that the existence of such a large population of mixed race slaves contradicts arguments that justify American slavery though the supposed inferiority of the American race. Okay, so right now, um, it's true that some of our foremothers were raped by crackers. Most of these crackers were their slave owners. They made bed wenches out of them, right? But this is something that you got to understand. All rapes do not result in pregnancies, right? Um, But it's not far fetched for a kid to be seeing a white man take his mom out of a field into a damn barn, and having his way with her. It's not far fetched that he would think, well, hell, all of us are so called white people because, they have, sex with our moms, you know. So, you know what? Even in those times they basically understood that to some extent that you are who your father is, you know. Um but let's just keep going. But this was basically an assumption off of things that he saw. He knew that our foremothers were made bed wenches out of, so it wasn't it's not far fetched for him to deduce that his father's a white man. But it was never of a surety. This is just something that he thought, predicated off of what he knew and what he saw. You know, living on slave plantations, right? This is another source. In Narrative of Life of Frederick Douglass, there is no definitive answer to who Douglass's father is because Douglass was deprived of the information. However, Douglass says that the common gossip told that his father was his master. The common gossip. Let's look up this word gossip. Right? Gossip. Gossip verb. To talk idly about the affairs of others. Right? Gossip. Let's see. What else does it say? A gossip noun, sponsor, godparent, God, a familiar acquaintance, a friend or neighbor, especially in the home. Okay, anyone engaging in familiar or idle talk. Idle talk. Okay, trifling talk. A groundless rumor. Let's look up the word rumor. Right, a groundless rumor. Rumor, late 14th century, from Old French rumor, commotion, widespread noise or report, right? Noise, clamor, common talk, hearsay. Let's look up the word hearsay, right? Popular opinion, and I'm gonna look up this word opinion in my next source. So let's just look up the word hearsay. So the word gossip goes to rumor, and the word rumor is also linked to hearsay, right? Look up hearsay. Hearsay now, information communicated by another from phrase or from phrase to hearsay, right? The notion is here. Some people say as an adjective, 1570s, hearsay evidence is that which the witness gives not from his own perception, but from what is told to him, right? So whoever was running around propagating that his father was white, they didn't even know this was based off stuff that they heard. Okay. Let's get back to it. Okay, so in the narrative of Frederick Douglass, there is no definitive answer to who Douglass's father is because Douglass was deprived of the information. However, Douglass says that common gossip told that his father was his master. In the third paragraph of chapter 1, Douglass says that the only certainty is that his father is a white man. All who spoke of Douglass's parents said as much. So even when he's saying that this is predicated off of what? Off of stuff that he's hearing on these plantations that he's on, man. There's no definitive, proof from the source material that we're reading that he knows for surety who his father was, let alone that it was a damn white man. All right. Douglass was taken from his mother after birth, and he did not know his mother until much later. Such was a common practice during slavery to break family ties among slaves. It was also common practice for slave masters to rape female slaves or otherwise have sexual relations with them. So Douglass thinks that the rumor of his father being his master is most likely true. So it's telling you why he thinks this, and it's not far-fetched, but this is something that we also have to take into consideration. They had things called the nigger marriage, right, where they would breed, other Negroes with other Negroes. They had breeding farms, right? So they would basically treat us like dogs. You know, if you want a purebred pit bull, you're gonna have that pit bull mate with another pit bull. You're gonna have your Doberman mate with another Doberman. You know, to get a strong bloodline and the best result. You know what I'm saying, of that grade of dog. They treated us the same way. You know, they treated us like their property, which we were their property. And what they would do is, you know, their thought was to get the best and strongest slave. You know, you let a nigga lay down with another nigga, right? And you get the strongest buck that you can get. That's what they called us back in those times. So they could sell them to the highest bidders, you know, and things like the European competition and things like that. Also, you have to take into account that it was more buck breaking going on than it was actual the rape of our foremothers. The rape of our forefathers supersede, you know what I'm saying, or over exceed the rape of our foremothers, because they was also raping the men. You know, because these white men is the devil that the Bible speaks of, and that just plain and simple. I'm gonna come straight, man. They're damn homosexuals, man. All right, history shows this. All right, but let's just keep going. Okay, this is another source. My mother was named Harriet Bailey. She was the daughter of Isaac and Bessie Bailey, both colored and quite dark. My mother was of a darker complexion than either my grandmother or grandfather. My father was a white man. He was admitted to be such by all I ever heard speak of my parentage. So if this is all that you're hearing, of course this is what you're going to say, right? But it was all based off of gossip and rumors, okay? All right, this is the actual book that, you know, all these sources are pulling this from, you know, and I'm gonna end off on this. Okay, so narrative. This is the narrative of Frederick. This is the actual book. My mother was of a darker complexion than either my grandmother or my grandfather. My father was a white man. He was admitted to be such by all I ever heard speak of my parentage. The opinion was also whispered that my father was that my master was my father. The opinion. Okay, so this is a opinionated statement. Let's look up this word opinion. Opinion, right? There we go. Opinion. Early 14th century. Opinion. A judgment formed or a conclusion reached, especially one based on evidence that does not produce knowledge or certainty. Okay? Opinion, view, judgment found upon probabilities. Probabilities. His father could be a white man. His father could also not be a white man. We don't know. He didn't know. All right? So, yeah. So let me just finish this out. The opinion was also whispered that my master was my father, but of the correctness of this opinion, I know nothing. The means of knowing was withheld from me. Okay? You know, they kept his birthday away from him. You know, hell, they took his mom away from him. You know what I'm saying? He didn't have knowledge of a damn thing. You know? So why in the hell would they tell him who the hell his father was? You know? That wouldn't make no damn sense. I'm gonna take everything else from you except for who your father is. Like, come on, man. It doesn't even make any sense. So, you know, I'm just gonna I think I'm gonna end right here. But yeah, brothers can't keep going out and you know, spewing this rhetoric as if they're making, you know, definitive statements or they have definitive proof that Frederick Douglass is a so-called white man, because you don't know where he goes back to. There's no way that you can know. With that, I'm gonna say call halal Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai and Shalom.